Barbara Marlowe.
After hearing that medical care in Iraq was unable to help a little girl, Barbara stepped in to bring her halfway around the world and into a new family.
I can tell you the exact date. It was July 16th, 2006. It was a Sunday. My husband Tim and I were going out to play golf. And on my way out to get ready to go, I grabbed the Sunday paper and I happened to flip to a page that showed all these pictures of children in Iraq that needed multiple surgeries and couldn't get them. One of the children that they featured was this little girl who was 4 years old, sitting on her father's lap. They were doing errands, I believe, or a doctor's appointment when it was hit by an insurgent bomb, and it ripped through the back of the cab, and it killed her brother and severely burned her. I felt so compelled to help this little girl, and I would look at those eyes in that picture every single day, and I thought she was talking to me through that picture.
And she proceeded to contact the journalist who wrote the article and contacted the parents to find out if they would be willing for us to help.
Because I really thought I could just call Jordanian Airlines and call all of these places, and they would say, sure, she's 4 years old, not a problem, it's a humanitarian effort. Well, it became a nightmare.
It took 6 months to get them to Jordan, and then another 6 months to get them here.
So the date that was picked was July 16th, 2007, 1 year to the day that I had first read about her. And when she got off that plane, there was this tiny little 32-pound little girl that was had no hair, was so tired with her grandmother. And I remember just looking at her, and I fell instantly in love with her.
They were going to stay at Ronald McDonald House with Barbara arranged. We would periodically, every few days, go down and see them, drive them around, introduce them to the Iraqi community. We felt it wasn't right just to drop them and leave them. So we got involved and were taking them. And the more we saw, the more we realized it just wasn't working out. So ultimately we wound up having them come to our house and live at our home.
And from that point on, it's been an incredible journey. We found out that the surgeries were going to take a long time.
She's had 14 surgeries. And each one is very difficult. And I think my only inspiration and my wife's inspiration is her. Tiba is just marvelous.
My husband and I love her madly, madly.
I forgot, and Barbara didn't know, and that is when you have a child, your whole life goes through that child's life. Barbara has really stepped up to the plate. She's a wonderful mother. She loves her with all of her life, and she's just there for her.
Taj Ali.
On a winter's night, Taj's selflessness and quick thinking helped him to save his family from a burning home.
I just went into my grandma's room because I heard the smoke alarms, and I saw smoke coming out of her room. And I saw that it was like on fire. And went upstairs to go tell my mom, ran upstairs as fast as I could.
I just remember Ty standing over my bed, and he's like, "Mom, wake up, there's a fire." And I said, "Huh?" I thought I was dreaming. By then, he already had the phone in his hand. He grabbed the house phone instead of his cell phone, which was great.
And she told me to call 911 and get my brother and sister downstairs.
He got his brother and his sister outside. He actually put the coat on his little sister, a blanket on his little brother, put their shoes on. He and I didn't have shoes on. We didn't have clothes on. And he went downstairs. He put him in the ambulance. The ambulance had got there by that time. And then he ran back into the house to knock on the neighbor's door downstairs. Once he got her up and got her out, then he started helping me to get my grandmother down the rest of the way down the stairs.
Well, I was really worried because my great-grandma can't walk, and I was wondering how she's going to get downstairs in such little time.
And by the time we got outside, we looked back upstairs, and the whole house was engulfed in flames. You know, if it wasn't for Taj, we wouldn't have gotten out the house. I was panicking. I'm halfway asleep. And Taj was just cool, calm, and collective the whole entire time. handle business, and then let it sink in later what really happened.
No, we were like in the ambulance after the fire. We were all worried about what we're going to do next. But we remained calm, and everything worked out fine.
I'm sitting in the ambulance with my grandmother and 3 kids by myself, and basically just trying to figure out what steps we take next. We were just thankful to have everybody out of the house, to have walked out of the house with all that we did have, which was each other, was more important than anything else that we lost.
Thanks to Taj, his family is safe today.
I'm very proud of my son.
Ed Taraska.
When a life-threatening accident occurred on the job, Ed risked his life and then put his military training into action.
It was like a normal day. Everybody was working on their vehicles. We got assigned jobs, and we would do our job on the vehicles. Yeah, he was working inside the pit. What they call a pit. It's a long pit. It's probably 30 feet long. There's a jack in there that moves back and forth. It's hydraulically operated. It's got 2 cylinders that go up and down, and it raises the vehicles up. It can raise a 80,000-pound vehicle, no problem. And he was headed up in the air, and he was finishing his job up on his fire truck, Rocky River fire truck. He just redid the suspension because it was all needed replaced. He was just so close to getting the big job done, and he's reaching out of the pit and to put the drums on and backing plates on, and that's when something went crazy and it just fell. Mr. Sims yelled out, "Are you okay?" We always do that when somebody hears something that's not normal. That sound wasn't normal. And at first we didn't hear nothing, then he said no, and then when he said that, I just took off running, and everybody else did too. I got there first, and as I got there, he was just start coming out from under the truck. And I looked down at him, and he looked up at me, and I seen both arms were gone.
The crushing weight of the vehicle instantly severed both of Norm's arms. Ed and his co-workers sprung into action.
I says, "You guys help Norm, I'm gonna go call 911. Then everybody else starts screaming and call 911. So I ran back to the phone, which was right just a couple steps behind me, and then called 911. And I told the lady on the phone, I told her what happened. They had both arms severed, and you need to get here now.
It was kind of like a day like today, snow on the ground. Weather was a little inclement. Received a call from our dispatch. We got closer to EAB trucking, and that's when dispatch came back and said that it's possible loss of limbs.
And then Norm started screaming out a little bit, and what am I going to do now, and all this stuff. And Jimmy started talking to him and says, get his mind off of that. And for shock, this is when the training I had in the military started popping into my head, and started doing the things that I needed to do. We needed to do the same thing with Jimmy. He was trained in the military also, and we both started working on him. Raised his legs up to keep the blood into his core because he was starting to get kind of chilly, and the puddle of blood was getting pretty big around him.
We got in there, and the workers were with Norm, applying pressure to the wounds. They were doing a great job. I mean, they had it pretty much controlled when we got there. We got him on the cot, took him into the back of our squad, and that's when we started doing what we're trained to do.
They got him in the truck. I went down in the pit to look for Jimmy and Terry were with him. I went down in the pit to look for his arms, and Jack was about ready to fall again. It was just barely hanging on. I slid under the truck and grabbed one arm, sort of slid it out and handed it to him. He wrapped it up with a bandage, and then grabbed the wrist, and he wrapped that one up. And after he got that one, he just grabbed him and took off running, and that was it. They took him to the hospital.
I don't think Norm would have been here with us if it wasn't for those guys. With the loss of blood, the trauma, it would have been pretty severe. It was severe what happened, but it could have been a lot worse.
I don't know. I feel like a hero. I just think I did the right thing, helping my buddy out. He's my friend. I'm not gonna let him. Somebody like even anybody. I would help anybody out. I don't care. So it's just I don't know. My wife keeps calling me your hero, and I says I don't think I am. I think I just helped. Just did the right thing. That's all.
Najee Patterson.
16-year-old Najee had just completed Red Cross CPR training, just weeks before responding to a mother's plea for help.
My name is Najee. I go to Collinwood. I enjoy sports, swimming, football, play the saxophone. I'm into jazz. all forms of music for real. Well, I was in my room working on just drawing around, playing around, and then I heard screams outside. And so then I ran to the window and I seen a lady holding her baby and just running with him and screaming, "My baby's not breathing." So I rushed downstairs, I grabbed my mask, and I told my parents that it was a baby across the street not breathing.
We got up, we ran over there. I told them, I said, well, my son knows CPR, he's a lifeguard, he knows CPR. Najee went and got his mask, his pouch. We went over there, laid the baby down.
I felt kind of nervous when I was trying to save this baby. It just, gave me chills for real. I was shaking. She's starting to turn light purple. So I pulled out my mask, I positioned her head, did my ABCs, everything they taught me in class, and I started performing breath resuscitation. And I just continued, I just did that over and over again. My parents called 911, they talked to them, and they came, and I just kept on performing until they came and took over.
All this training and everything, it really paid off for that child and that family, and they was very appreciative. They came back after everything was settled down. About maybe 2-3 weeks later, the baby was still in the hospital, and they came back, told Najee how much they appreciated him.
I'm just glad I was there to help him.
He did a good job, I was proud of him, after everything was, said and done, I kind of choked up. And I'm not really a choked up type of guy,
Today, Najee hopes to inspire future heroes and us all.
We still proud of him, he's a good kid.
Tanya Bell.
Tanya's day of hiking with a friend took a dramatic turn when she arrived upon a 3-year-old girl who was choking.
It was a fall day and we decided to take a drive out to the east side of Chagrin Falls. And it was a beautiful day. We were walking around the town and we went into the store we've got 4 little kids. We went into the store and the kids were asking if they could have some candy on the way out. And they grabbed a piece as they went out, and I told my wife, I'm gonna go ahead and get a table at a restaurant. It's always crazy with all the kids. Just go ahead and keep walking and I'll catch up to you. So I'm in the restaurant and waiting, in line, and my son comes charging in the restaurant and he says, you gotta come quick, Annie's throwing up. And as I look down the street, it's maybe a block down the street, I can see my wife motioning to me, and all I heard her scream was, Annie's choking. So I went running down the street, and we get up to, where they are, and Annie's standing there, and she's visibly choking. I mean, her face is turning red, and she's grabbing onto her throat, and she, you can see in her eyes she needs help. And my wife says, she's choking, I don't know what to do, and, can you give her the Heimlich, I'm telling her, and she grabs Annie, and she's squeezing Annie, and nothing's happening. Actually, what's happening is drool starts coming out of her mouth, and she's going from red to purple.
Well, my girlfriend and I had been hiking in the Chagrin Valley, and we got to the downtown portion of Chagrin Falls for lunch. As we were getting out of the car, we noticed that there was some people gathered, just kind of actually these 2 adults hunched over a child, and we weren't really sure what was going on. Honestly, before I really thought about what was happening, I just was kind of rushing over there and going towards the little girl, and I could hear all of these people talking peripherally. I could hear the mom screaming for help. I could hear I could hear my friend asking the father if we should call 911 if there was an emergency, and I just, I heard the mom saying that her daughter was dying. Somebody help us.
She was just so confident. She just came out and just took over, so confident. I don't know if I could do that with some stranger I didn't even know.
She was not breathing and very lethargic, and her eyes were already rolling back in her head, and I just remember thinking that it's really almost too late.
Now there's a crowd of people standing around us that are, screaming out, do this to her, do that to her, trying to give advice. And I always thought that I'd be good under pressure, and here I am just frozen like a block of ice.
So I just jammed my fist down her throat and grabbed the piece of candy. I could feel it with my fingers, and I just grabbed it quickly and forced her to, toss up most everything else that was in her stomach, and she gasped, and she was so frightened and scared she couldn't even really cry.
There's no question in my mind. People say coincidences. There's no such thing as a coincidence. God had her in that spot for that moment, and it wasn't until we found out the enormity afterwards of her circumstances to know for sure that this thing had a much greater purpose.
Several years ago, Tanya's young daughter experienced a similar accident. Unfortunately, she suffered permanent effects.
I mean, it's just, for us to see that this woman came in and saved our daughter's life, and then to find out a few weeks later that she had 4 kids, that she had a daughter that was in a similar circumstance, that, that ended up being in a coma, that ended up being a quadriplegic from it. I mean, when I got an email from her that said that, it just, everything else stopped at that point. It was, it became crystal clear that God had placed her in our path, and that it was as much for her as it was for us.
Every time I see her or her parents, they remind me that she calls me her guardian angel, which I think is really sweet.
I know she definitely probably doesn't think she's a hero. She's very humble, but she's definitely a hero in my book because she saved my child with confidence and just the way she lives her life.
Responsive, brave, selfless. Ladies and gentlemen, these are our heroes.